Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Holly if you're new, and today we're talking all things ultra running. I'm gonna give you all my best tips and explain why I love it so much. Let's jump right in. So last night I got to go on a really great trail run with one of my younger clients who had actually never done a trail run before that. She's always been on the roads or on the track, so this was a really special experience getting to coach her through that, and it really made me want to make this video today. Now I know ultramarathons are not exclusive to trails and a lot happen on the road, but we do know a lot of ultramarathons happen in the mountains, in the wilderness, on more technical trails sometimes. You're going up, you're going down, etc. So in today's video, I wanted to kind of break that down for you guys if you're dabbling in the idea of maybe signing up for one, or you've done a few and you're just interested in learning more. We're gonna do this video here in 3 parts. Part 1, I'm gonna talk about the details of an ultramarathon, what you can expect, what makes it unique compared to other races you may have done before, and why I really like it as a mental and physical test. Part 2, we're gonna talk about the training for an ultramarathon, how long that takes, what you need to be including, how you can make sure you're preventing injury and getting in the right headspace to get through the race completely. And in part 3, we're gonna go through this big pile of crap. I'm gonna give you all my gear recommendations for the ultramarathon. Believe me, I've made every mistake in the book through these races, learning my lessons, and I've landed on this gear for a reason. So I'm gonna share with you guys how you can use it to make yourself last much longer through the race. Pretty amazing that such a simple sport requires so many things. So be it. Let's jump right into part 1. Gonna give you guys a little context here as a jumping off point. In the world of ultra running, I've completed 5 50Ks, 3 50 milers, and 2 100 milers so far. I've loved them all for different reasons, which we'll get into, but I wanna be clear that this video is not gonna be a how to win Western States type of video. I don't win races, I don't claim to be very fast, but I'm a steady runner and I found really good ways to problem solve through different issues in races, especially towards the end of the race. I feel like I've really gotten to know that part of myself, so I'm hoping that's what sticks with you guys today. Pass it along to a friend if you think of it. I like to view ultramarathons as an experience, almost the way you would visiting Disney World. You're gonna go and experience different things. There's gonna be highs and lows. They're not gonna be happening in the order you expect. In a road race that's gonna be maybe a half marathon distance, even 10K, 5K, you generally know how your energy is gonna burn out through the race and you can push yourself accordingly. Ultras are very different. There are so many factors that go into an ultra, mostly because you're out there for so much longer. You have different weather to deal with, times of day, you have light, no light, layers, no layers, you've got little issues that come up along the way, and you are just simply on your feet for longer. So there's a lot more to factor in. But when you look at it from the world of, this is an experience, I'm gonna go see what this day brings, that's how you learn a lot and you can really feel more fulfilled by the sport, versus if you're having a good day on that 10K or not, good stomach, bad stomach, your foot hurts, your foot doesn't hurt, that can really take over the entire race. Whereas I feel there's more ups and downs that are a little bit more unexpected in the ultramarathon. And I think that's what makes it so cool. Another way of explaining it is at the end of an ultramarathon, you see people have the most pride around how they handled their lowest moments. So it's really not, oh, in this section of the race, I ran really fast and that's why I'm so proud of how today went. A lot of people, it's, I had a really big issue come up at mile 20, and this is what I did to make sure I could keep putting one foot in front of the other to get through that finish. That's where a lot of the pride comes from in the finish, whereas more of a traditional race on the road, marathon, half marathon, you might feel more pride around hitting a PR, so holding a certain pace, the weather was good, your ankle injury you'd been dealing with didn't hurt as bad as you thought it would, but this usually one thing that really made it go smooth the whole time, that's where your pride comes from. Ultras, we pretty much know it's not gonna go smooth the whole time, but it's how we whack-a-mole these problems down using our resources and our brains, what we've done in the training to prepare us to handle that problem. That's what I think makes the two differences, and that's why I say ultras are more of an experience. Things are going to come up, you just know that they are. For the absolute top elites too, they're running into things that they have to work through. Whereas I feel the shorter distances, you can more lay out groundwork to really know what to expect, put every single thing in place to just hammer it home and push through to the end. You get less of that in the ultramarathons, especially depending on the terrain. I probably should have said this earlier in the video, but an ultramarathon is gonna be anything over the distance of a marathon. So anything over 26.2 miles. The first standard ultra distance you'll usually see is the 50K, just under that 32-mile mark, which doesn't seem like that big of a jump over the marathon, but this brings me into the next section, which is the terrain that you're running on. It's very, very common for an ultra race to happen in the trails, in the mountains, incline, decline, technical trail where you're stepping over tree roots and rocks and slippery leaves. Some of them are super intense. You're going through creek crossings. I've had a race where I was knees down, wet through probably 7 or 8 creek crossings, and it was cold and hailing. So things like that can come up, and you have to navigate how you keep going wet to dry, up to down, stepping over things when you're tired, etc. Those are all things we don't deal with in, say, a flat road half marathon. So you start to think about what else can make you fatigued through the race. And that's where I said it's not so linear. So it's not just that you're running out of energy, but you can, focus just on your speed. You also have to focus on not rolling your ankle, not falling off the side of the mountain, making sure you're passing people properly on single track trail. These are the things that require more energy, thought, and strategy throughout the race. You'll hear a lot of ultramarathoners talk about time on feet. Now, we really like this term because it gives the space for things to be unpredictable, right? We are out there navigating this terrain, the ups, the downs, something being technical or difficult to get through, or maybe a smooth area, whatever. But it's all kind of coming and going. It's not very predictable. And we like time on feet to just acknowledge, what are we doing to keep ourselves upright from start to finish? How do we keep ourselves fed, hydrated? If we're dealing with issues, how do we navigate those to be able to keep continuing forward? Do we need little breaks? Do we need gear changes, etc.? Now, it's important to remember that if you guys are racing up at altitude, but you train at sea level, these are other factors that come in to your race. So I like training for time on feet also to prepare myself. If a course is going to be slower, I am used to being on my feet moving forward for that long. I think that's really important to do, especially if you are not training in the same exact type of area that you'll be racing at. It leaves you a little bit more space for things to go wrong because you're used to being on your feet for that long. And one final point I want to hit home in this first section is that you will and you should hike parts of the race. This was a big mistake I made my first 50K. I had it set in my head that I had to run every single step of this race to prove to myself that I really ran an ultramarathon. What I quickly found out is that you actually become a lot slower over the time period of the race if you don't do any hiking and you're only trying to run the whole thing, especially on those inclines. Look at the absolute best ultra runners out there. Some of them are smoking through the whole thing, but for those really technical up and down races, they are being strategic about when they hike. A lot of times you can hike up a mountain faster than you can run it, especially later on in the race. So it's about managing that energy. Drop that pride though, and just know hiking is part of this sport. It is really something to be built in to make you last for longer from start to finish. Moving into section 2, how do we train for an ultramarathon? What's the best way to do this? Main thing we're accomplishing here is we want to become the most well-rounded athlete that we can. We need to be good against anything that comes up. The ups, downs, any type of impact over those several thousand steps, our body needs to be able to fight that. Number one thing I suggest is adding in that strength training if you have never done it before. Sometimes we can get through a road race or training for that road marathon with no strength training and we get lucky and we don't run into any issues. But for the most part, guys, I always recommend including at least 2 strength sessions in your weekly routine. Especially in the ultra world, this is what makes the difference when you're going up that hill for a long time. This is everything. Your glutes help you, your quads, hamstrings, those things really, when they're strong, can be your extra gear going up. They take over when everything else feels like it needs to quit. Muscle also really helps keep you stable and balanced when things get difficult to step over, if it is technical in certain parts of the race. That practice in the gym gets you really strong and trusting of each individual leg. You can do single leg work. You can really work on the smaller muscles, balancing on one leg, really giving your legs that confidence, which again, as you fatigue, those are the things that really kick in to help. It can be all the difference between rolling your ankle or not. You also really want to focus on core strength and upper back strength because a lot of you guys will be having a pack the whole time that you're running, right? That's extra weight on there that you're getting used to, especially in the training runs, etc. That is a lot more comfortable when you have support through your core and you don't feel like you're wilting over because of the weight. So those are important things. Otherwise, you want to be mixing up the types of training. And I don't say just go into different mileage runs and you're covered in the running front. You want to have hills, of course. You want to be working on speed, so that tempo work, working faster and slower. This all helps make you aerobically more fit. And you, of course, want to be working on tired legs, and you want to get really used to that feeling. So I wouldn't say if I'm doing a 50K, oh, you need to go out and do 27 or 30 miles before you do it. I would actually say the most important foundational long runs would be 20 miles on a Saturday, go to bed, wake up on Sunday and hit another 10. When your legs are smoked, you're tired, you really don't want to do it. That is much better training, in my opinion, those back-to-back days, than just banging out a long run where you are going to maybe get through it and learn a lot along the way. But we don't necessarily need to put that type of volume every week, those really long, hard runs. We actually just want to practice utilizing our best mental and physical tools when our legs are tired. How do we make ourselves work smarter in the face of that fatigue? A couple other training factors. Number one, I want you guys to make sure you're practicing sometimes running in the dark with a headlamp. A lot of ultras at least start in the dark. They may not finish in the dark depending on the distance you're doing, but this is something that a lot of us are not used to when we do races, right? Running in the dark is a totally different beast, and you need to be comfortable with that headlamp on. How are you trusting your feet to keep stepping forward and not getting on any unstable surfaces? The headlamp can also sometimes cause nausea, which I've talked about in some of my other videos. I sometimes get nauseous from the bouncing of the light, so figuring out, does that need to be down on your hand? Do you need to follow someone and their light is your light? That kind of thing. All that practice really goes a long way in the practice rounds. Going back to my point about hiking, you really want to practice hiking well. That was another big mistake I made in the early days of the ultramarathon. I didn't think I needed to practice that. It's walking, right? Like, we all walk every day, but hiking quickly to not diminish your overall pace by so much is really important. So practicing nice, steady incline walks, keeping your hips forward, really powerful, keeping that heart rate up. You are walking technically, you're not running, but you want to be able to still bridge that gap between the walk and the run, especially when you're out there on the ups and downs. That can make all the difference in you making that cutoff time or not. It's really, really important. Additionally, I want you guys to use your training time to practice the types of foods you're going to be eating throughout the race, because inevitably you have to eat through the whole race. That's the only way you're going to get through an ultramarathon, being on your feet for that long, being out there for that whole day, right? Sometimes multiple days if you guys get into that kind of thing. So knowing those foods early on, practicing on your short runs, your long runs, what can I stomach? What feels like I can eat and keep moving forward? It won't happen in a day, by the way. You're going to make mistakes, and that's what these training runs are for, these training workouts. I like to work things in early on so I kind of know what I can and can't handle. And maybe I first try it in the gym before actually taking it out on a long run so that I have a bathroom nearby, etc. But there's a lot more experimentation that goes on. That's all part of the training. Lastly, and we're going to finish with this, with the gear, your training is for practicing with all the stuff you're going to be using in the race. We can't leave it to race day to then add all this crap in. We need to really know what it feels like, especially for long periods of time. So I usually do those double days in the exact outfit and gear that I'll be in on race day. And I want to complete this section by talking about your output, general fitness, and how to use your heart rate to control your training and have a good race day. I know heart rate's been a big topic of discussion on this channel recently. I know I got a lot of feedback about me saying that 200 was everyone's general max. Did not mean to say that. What I meant was that you should really know what your max heart rate is and what your max output feels like. And this is especially important in training for the ultramarathon, because you have to start conservatively to be able to really perform well in the tough moments. If you go out hard and assume that you're going to be able to hold that output the whole time, you will pretty much fail 10 out of 10 times. You really need to know yourself well. As you are training, you want to be mixing up how hard and light your workouts are for sure, but you want to be making sure that on those inclines or anything that gets really technical or difficult during the race, you know how to approach that, right? You don't want it to be too late where you've overexerted yourself for too long and now there's no return, right? So using types of workouts, mixing things up, fast, slow, incline, flat, differentiating between our strength workouts as well, making sure we're getting different things out of different workouts. Some of them should be about lifting as heavy as we can, putting our body in the best position for minimal reps, but really working top to bottom in the best position we can to resist that weight. Those types of workouts might not spike the heart rate as much, but you'll feel much hungrier afterwards. Your body has had to work really hard in those few reps. On the other hand, we can do strength workouts, a little bit higher heart rate, maybe more HIIT style. We've got some agility work, some jumping, some plyometrics, balance on the single leg, prepping our body to really land well on each individual step of our run, especially when we're tired at the end. So good to track our output here. They're going to look different in the strength workouts, but making sure we're mixing up the types of training that we're doing. Okay, now the fun part of the video. I'm going to go through my favorite gear for the ultra running. I feel like this stuff has really helped me for different types of environments, and I'll kind of explain that as we go. Starting, of course, with our pack. I've been using this Nathan one, which is great. It hugs really tight to the chest and the body. It feels like just another layer of clothing. Inside, I will put a bladder with the hose attached, which is somewhere around here, but just looks like this. I believe this is, 1.5 liters. You just fill it up. Little tip for you guys. If you don't know about this, when you put your water in here, you wanna close it and tip it upside down, and then you'll suck the air out of the top of this. When you put it back, now the water won't slosh around. Really good tip that I didn't know when I was first getting into this world. I was the one on the large group trail run making such a ruckus, and that was why. So that's a good tip for that. Different hose types, of course, different mouthpieces you can buy. Amazon's great for all this stuff now, by the way. I used to have to go through like running companies, and I feel like now, like this is from Amazon, super easy. This is a soft flask. This would go in the front pouch of this pack. They make them with long straws, which is nice and convenient. You don't really have to like dip down or pull it out or anything like that. I like to keep not just water in these. Usually I'll do something with electrolytes just to kind of mix up, and I'll do normal water in the bladder here. But again, having a bunch of these on hand, they will rip. It will happen in the middle of the race, and you want to have backups ready to go. I have learned the hard way. The theme of this video. Moving on, guys. I don't know how many of you guys will do your first ultra somewhere where you will need or be allowed to have your trekking poles, but these are awesome. These are black diamond, and they fold up, which is nice, so they'll tuck in the straps of my pack. They weigh virtually nothing, but they're there if I need them, which is great. I believe they're adjustable just from the top part, and then everything else just kind of folds and unfolds. They make different bottoms here too, depending on what type of terrain you're on. You will always see in the race directions if you're allowed to have trekking poles. I think they can be a huge use in managing your pace. We didn't talk too much about that, but pacing in an ultra comes down to making sure you do not get past the cutoff time. There are different cutoffs usually at different aid stations to keep everyone safe and healthy, but you need to stay under a certain pace. That's usually all I'm ever thinking about. Stay under this pace to make sure I don't make a cutoff time and get, disqualified from the race. If you are having trouble with climbs and it's very steep and very technical, and you're allowed to have trekking poles, that is the way to go. That keeps you more steady in your effort throughout so that you don't drop off. Moving along, Tailwind. This is a great product for liquid calories. Sometimes, like I said, people run into stomach issues. This was designed for like gut bombs is what they call it. This is just supposed to be easy sugar, easy calories. You just drink it. You could put it in your soft flask at the front. 200 calories in a package, which is nice. So if I don't feel like eating any real food in the race, which eventually that's kind of comes over time, you feel like you can stomach the real food part of it. But if you can't, this is a great place to start. Moving along to electrolyte salt. I don't care if the race is in completely cold, wet conditions. You will be sweating, your output will be high, and you need to be replacing those electrolytes. I lick my finger, I shake this and lick it off, and I do that about every 30 to 40 minutes. Works every time. I have literally, both 100 milers basically did not cramp at all because of this stuff. Moving along, this is just good to have some sort of bandana or just like a neck gaiter. The temperature is going to change a lot no matter what race you're doing, what time of year. You're out there for so long that you're going to have a pretty drastic difference for the most part. So I like having this where I need it. I can just wrap it around my wrist when I don't really need it too much, neck in the morning if it's cold, and cover my ears if it's cold, if it's wet. It's just something else that can kind of like brace against the elements, which is just nice to have and weighs nothing. On that same line, these are gaiters for your ankles, and if you're in a dusty or rocky race, these actually connect. Mine, I chose ones with coffee beans on them, but it just connects the bottom of, your leggings if you have those, or just kind of blocks out above the shoe. So you're not gonna let any debris get into your shoe. That's the main point of these, just keeping things out. It hooks to your shoe strap at the front, your shoelaces, and then Velcros to the back of your sneaker, and then keeps everything from getting in. So you can be in shorts, etc., leggings, but you don't have to worry about stuff getting in your shoes. Moving on to socks, I really like Injinji. Been my go-to for a while. I love a toe sock. More prevention against blisters, which I've dealt with a lot, and I just feel like this is just something extra to have. It's not uncomfortable, so why not have space between my toes versus giving them a chance to get too humid in there and then rubbing on each other and getting blisters. That is annoying. On that same topic, I've got this great book that really helped me in the beginning, Fixing Your Feet. I will have everything linked below, by the way, but this is a great book for learning based on the types of problems you have, and you'll know this more and more as you get into the long runs. What are you dealing with? Is it certain types of blisters? Are you getting like a sort of hot spot? Are your toenails falling off? This covers everything. Really, really good stuff in here, and it's all very individualized, which is nice. Moving along, I love Shammy Butter for any sort of chafing under the bra straps, even the neck under the pack. You'll run into some rubbing sometimes between the legs. Again, use this in the socks, whatever you need, backs of the heels. This stuff's amazing. I think it was originally developed more for cyclists, but I love it. This is always good to have in an ultra. A lot of them are cup-free races, so this can just hook onto your bag and you can just use it for anything they have out of the big coolers, Coke, etc. It's just good to have one of these and then just put it right back. It weighs absolutely nothing. And we don't want littering, obviously. This has been one of the biggest things I've ever used in an ultra race. I mean, all temperatures, all types of elements. I like having a shell on. And this one has zippers under the armpits. I feel like this just does a really good job when I go between hot, cold, wet, and dry. It is just this lightweight layer that can just keep me insulated, and I just really enjoy having it on. I've pretty much done every ultra in it, actually. It has pockets, of course, so I can stick trash, etc. as I'm eating, but it's just good. This one has a hood as well. This 150 mile I did had some crazy hail going on, so I was really glad I had that. Moving along, your headlamp. I have this one. I don't die for this one, so I'm gonna link it, but get something better. Black diamond. I got this forever ago for a Mount Whitney hike, but this is a long-lasting headlamp, and you guys need to always have, whether it's in your crew bag or if you're carrying it on you, extra batteries. These things will turn on, you won't have any idea, and then they die when you really, really need them. I've had that happen too. So you always need somewhere nearby batteries for this. Some of this is like Holly duh, like we know. But I'm just covering it now because it might not dawn on you until it's too late. Some other food choices, I really like Spring Energy gels. You guys have probably heard about this. Real foods in here, no chemicals or anything like that. It's food that would just sit like a normal meal would for me. So there's rice, orange juice, peanut butter, stuff like that in here. I like those, and I love the scratch chews. I don't know really the ingredients of these, but I will say I don't have any stomach issues when I eat these, which is nice. I also love these kind of calf compression socks, basically no foot on here. But when I'm getting really tired and swollen at the end of a race, putting these on really helps kind of distribute that blood. Everything that's kind of throbbing subsides a little bit when I put these on, so I really like these for that, especially in the changing temperatures as well. Moving along to my favorite shoe that I've ever run in, the Hoka Speedgoat. This is perfect for trail to road, so if you've got kind of a mixed terrain, this is a really good way to go. And I just can't say enough good things. Nice and lightweight. I believe they also make a version with a higher ankle, so if you really just want to make sure nothing's going to get in the shoe, that's good for that. I think this is a stable shoe. If I step on any sharp rocks, it protects me. Nothing but good things to say. Also come in different widths, which is really nice. Did I leave anything out? I don't think so. Hey guys, it's been a few hours, and it turns out I did forget to talk about something, which is my run watch, one of the most important pieces of gear that I use. I don't believe you have to spend a ton of money on a run watch, anything like that. It's just nice to have all of your training data in one place, especially if things feel off one week to the next. It's always good to have something to look at and, register, oh, I was running harder routes this week, or maybe I got less sleep and that's why my heart rate was higher on this run that normally should feel really easy. Things like that. It's just nice to have that. And I think it's fun to look at all of your hard work across the year as you gear up for your ultra. I think it's just a nice badge of honor and it's fun to look at. But you don't need it. It's just nice to have out there. And if you are in more remote places doing your training and even for the race, I really think it's smart to have something with GPS on it. That can also be flagged by other people or marked and that kind of thing. You can share location, I think, just for safety measures. I actually just got this in the mail last night. This is my new Coros, which I'm so excited about. This is the Pace Pro. It's brand new, but I've been running in the Coros Apex for about 4 years now, and I've loved it. Great battery life. This is their first color screen one, so I'll report back more in another video once I've used it more, but I already really love it on first impression. And yeah, I really like the brand Coros. I think they make a nice, affordable watch with good battery life, which is great, and I've used it for a long time at this point. But forgot to mention that, wanted to include it here. That's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you for following along. I can do follow-ups to this as always, but I'm really, really passionate about ultra marathons. I think there is no feeling like finishing one. You learn so much about yourself, and this is such a good way to translate to your life. Learn about yourself and how you handle issues, and using the tough moments in the race to apply them to when things go tough in your life. When something comes up that you feel like you can't handle, you remember, how did I handle that moment of the race when I was miserable, when I didn't think I could take a step forward and I did it anyway? I'm super proud of you guys for getting to the end of this very long video. I will see you in the next. Bye.